The Bentley sat crooked on the shoulder of the rain-slick highway, its silver grille flashing like a broken crown under a bruised sky. Cars hissed past, indifferent to the man pacing beside it, suit soaked, phone dead, pride unraveling. Then came her, small frame, faded backpack, twist tucked beneath a too big hoodie. She walked straight toward him, unbothered by the storm, the stares, or the scowling man who hadn't noticed her silence, or that she hadn't heard his barked protest. She pointed to the hood, then to herself. His frown faltered. He didn't know she was deaf. She didn't care that he was a billionaire. No one could have guessed this quiet girl, forgotten by most of the world, would be the one to change his life. Not by fixing his car, but by doing the impossible. She helped him hear again. Vivian Cross didn't believe in fate, only contracts, consequences, and quarterly earnings. At 42, she'd built an empire from silence, mergers made with nods, loyalty bought with bonuses, and feelings buried beneath designer heels and steel boardroom glances. She had penthouses in 3 cities, a jet with her initials on the tail, and an assistant who once cried because Vivian remembered her birthday. She wasn't cruel, just efficient, alone. Even now behind the wheel of her custom Bentley, she wasn't angry the car had died. She was irritated at the inconvenience. She had somewhere to be, always. And this cracked pavement, these shuttered storefronts, and the graffiti-stained overpass, this was not on her schedule. No driver, no assistant, no bodyguard. She'd insisted on going alone, just this once. Maybe she was trying to feel something. Maybe she thought she still could. Instead, she stood in a neighborhood she'd only ever seen in reports and real estate pitches, watching her breath fog in the air, waiting for roadside assistance that wasn't coming. No one offered help. Some didn't even look. And for a moment, Vivian wasn't a billionaire. She was just a woman alone on the side of the road. Until the girl appeared, silent, calm, unafraid. Zaria was 10 years old, though she carried herself like someone twice that. Maybe it was the way she watched the world, carefully, like every detail mattered. Maybe it was because she'd grown up learning to listen with her eyes, her hands, and her heart. She'd been born deaf, but her grandmother, Miss Eloise, never let that word define her. "God gave you other ways to hear, baby," she'd say, tapping a hand to Zariah's chest. "Right here." Their tiny apartment above the corner laundromat smelled like lavender and old books. Miss Eloise filled it with love, stories, and quiet lessons. She taught Zariah to read lips, to sign, and most of all, to notice. Zariah noticed everything, especially things that didn't work. She had a knack for fixing what others threw away. Rusty bikes, broken toys, radios no one else bothered with. Give her a paperclip and a rubber band, and she'd give you a working fan. That day she was walking home from school, hoodie zipped to her chin, backpack bouncing against her side. The rain had just let up and steam curled off the sidewalk. Then she saw it. The car gleamed like it didn't belong. It was angled awkwardly, like a fallen monument, and beside it, a tall woman in heels and fury. Zariah paused, watched. No one helped. So she stepped off the curb. She didn't know the woman was famous, didn't care. She just saw something broken and wanted to help, because Zariah didn't need ears to hear when someone's heart was screaming. Vivian stood by her car like a queen beside a fallen throne, fuming as another stranger passed without so much as a glance. She waved off a man who slowed down, more out of curiosity than concern, her eyes sharp and tired. Then, a light tap on her elbow, she turned, startled. A small girl stood there, hoodie damp, shoes scuffed, eyes calm and wide. She didn't speak, just pointed to the Bentley's hood, then to herself. Vivian blinked. "You want to look at the engine?" The girl nodded. They sat like that for a while, trading notes and simple gestures. Zariah tapped her chest when she meant me, pointed to things, signed slowly and patiently. Vivian watched, fascinated, trying to mimic the signs. They didn't need much talk. The quiet was enough. Vivian caught herself smiling, really smiling, as the girl showed her how to sign "Thank you." The billionaire copied it clumsily, then laughed again when the girl shook her head and corrected her form. After a moment, Vivian reached into her purse and pulled out a crisp $100 bill. Zariah shook her head immediately. Vivian frowned. "It's just a thank you." Zariah scribbled again. "You already said thank you." Vivian stared at the note, something tight catching in her chest. Then she folded the bill away. "Okay," she whispered. "Then at least let me give you a ride home." Zariah looked at the Bentley, then at Vivian. She nodded. As the doors shut behind them, the silence remained. But this time it was warm. Something had been fixed that day, and it wasn't just the car. The billionaire's eyes softened as he watched the girl's quiet smile. "I want to give you something," he said gently, surprising everyone around. "Something to help." Without waiting for a reply, he stood and took the girl's small hand, guiding her and her grandmother to a nearby clinic he had arranged. The walls were bright, the air filled with a calm hum of quiet conversations and soft footsteps. Inside, a hearing specialist greeted them warmly, quickly ushering the girl through a series of gentle tests. Sounds of beeps and whispered tones filled the room as the machines measured what the girl could hear. The grandmother's hands trembled slightly as she held her granddaughter's. After the tests, the specialist exchanged a hopeful glance with the billionaire. "There's a possibility," she said carefully, "that a special hearing aid could make a big difference." The girl said nothing. She simply smiled, a small radiant curve of the hope that needed no words. The billionaire squeezed her hand softly, feeling a quiet joy he hadn't expected. Sometimes, the greatest gifts didn't come wrapped in gold, but in moments like this, a chance to give light where there had been silence. The specialist carefully fitted the tiny hearing aid behind the girl's ear. With a soft click, she turned it on. A moment passed, stillness, a fragile pause in time. Then, faint but unmistakable, came the gentle, loving voice of her grandmother. "My darling, can you hear me?" The girl's eyes widened, tears spilled down her cheeks, shining with disbelief and joy. Then, as if a floodgate had opened, her laughter bubbled up, pure and bright, filling the room with a warmth that no words could capture. Without hesitation, she threw her arms around the billionaire. No words were needed. Her embrace said everything. Gratitude, wonder, and a connection deeper than anything spoken. The billionaire's own tears slipped freely. Overwhelmed by the miracle unfolding before him, he held her tightly, feeling the power of a moment that would change both their lives forever. In that room, filled with quiet miracles and new beginnings, the silence was broken not just by sound, but by the profound gift of hope and love. Inspired by the girl's courage and joy, the billionaire founded a new charity in her name, dedicated to helping deaf children find their voices and hear the world around them. He began reaching out, reconnecting with people he'd long kept at a distance, discovering a renewed sense of purpose beyond wealth and power. Meanwhile, the girl flourished in her new world of sound. She volunteered at the charity, guiding other deaf children with patience and kindness, sharing the hope she had received. Their lives, once isolated and silent in different ways, had become intertwined in a bond stronger than words, proof that sometimes hearing isn't just about ears, but about the heart. Neither would ever be the same again. Kindness has the power to change lives, sometimes in ways we can't imagine. By reaching out to strangers, offering support, and showing compassion, we can open doors to new possibilities. Deaf children around the world need our help to experience the gift of sound and connection. Whether through volunteering, advocacy, or donations, every effort counts. Consider supporting organizations dedicated to hearing health and accessibility. Your contribution could bring a child's world to life, just like it did for the girl in this story. Remember, sometimes the smallest voices create the biggest change. Together, we can help others hear, not just with their ears, but with their hearts. Vivian hesitated. She could have laughed. A child, fixing a six-figure car. But there was something about the girl's presence, so grounded, so certain. And frankly, Vivian had nothing left to lose. With a sigh, she popped the hood. The girl didn't speak, didn't ask questions. She just moved with quiet confidence, pulling the strap of her backpack around and digging out a battered multi-tool. Her fingers worked fast, checking cables, brushing away corrosion, tightening something with a practiced hand. Vivian crossed her arms, unsure whether to be annoyed or impressed. Then, click. The engine rumbled to life. Vivian stared, stunned. The girl simply smiled, stepped back, and wiped her hands on her jeans. Silence stretched between them, not awkward but full. Something unspoken passed through that space. Gratitude, surprise, a crack in the wall around Vivian's heart. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. For the first time in years, she didn't know what to say. The girl didn't need words. She just gave a small wave and turned to go. But Vivian found herself calling after her, softly, uncertainly. Wait. Something had shifted, and for reasons she didn't yet understand, Vivian didn't want her to walk away. Zariah had never quite belonged. In school, kids whispered when they thought she couldn't see. They laughed when she misread lips or signed too fast. Some mimicked her gestures with flapping hands, thinking it was funny. Teachers tried, some more than others, but none stayed long. She sat alone at lunch most days, watching the world move in fast forward while she lived in quiet slow motion. But she never stopped smiling, because at home there was warmth. There was Miss Eloise. Her grandmother had weathered a lifetime of storms and still sang while folding laundry. She taught Zariah not just how to live without sound, but how to live with purpose. When people don't understand you, baby, she'd say, cupping Zariah's cheek. That's their silence, not yours. You don't need to hear the world to heal it. Zariah carried those words like armor. When her hearing aids broke and they couldn't afford repairs, she learned to fix them herself. When the neighbor's radio stopped working, she took it apart and brought it back buzzing. Her world was quiet, yes, but never empty. Each act of kindness was a note in her own song, one that the world just hadn't learned to listen to yet. So even after another hard day, another long walk through cracked sidewalks and sharp glances, she noticed the broken car. She noticed the angry woman, and something inside her said, that's someone who needs help. Not because she asked, but because Zariah heard what no one else could. Long before the billions, before the boardrooms and bodyguards, Vivian Cross was just a little girl in a hospital bed, too still, too quiet. She'd been 7 when the fever came. It left as quickly as it arrived, but it took something with it, the hearing in her right ear. For weeks she turned her head the wrong way when people spoke. Her father barked at her to pay attention. Her mother cried in the kitchen when she thought no one could hear. So Vivian learned to adapt. She read lips, sat close to the teacher, pretended. Then she learned something more dangerous, how to shut it all out. Pain, confusion, the ache of always being slightly out of sync with the world, like she was underwater, watching life move above the surface. She buried it under ambition. As an adult, her world grew louder. Meetings, markets, media, but the emptiness never left. Success became her armor. Control, her only comfort. She trusted no one, because everyone who helped her wanted something, a promotion, a favor, a connection. Love came with conditions, friendship with agendas. She couldn't remember the last time someone gave without expecting a return. So when that little girl, soaked and smiling, had fixed her car and walked away without asking for anything, not money, not recognition, Vivian felt something unfamiliar twist inside her. A feeling she thought she'd lost long ago. Maybe not everyone wants something. Maybe someone just wanted to help. And for the first time in years she realized she had never truly been heard. Vivian wasn't used to silence. Not this kind anyway. Not the kind that felt gentle. The girl sat on the curb beside her, legs swinging, cheeks flushed from the cold. She pulled a tiny notebook from her backpack and scribbled something with a sparkly pen. You should clean the battery cables soon. They're kinda gross. Vivian blinked, then laughed. It came out awkward, surprised and a little rusty, like a door opening for the first time in years. The girl smiled wide and nodded, proud.